Hello and welcome to Visiting Dugout, a Fans First Sports Network production. I'm Crystal O'Keefe, and today I have Kevin back on this season to chat about the Royals. Kevin, feel free to reintroduce yourself, or introduce yourself, I suppose, for those who haven't listened before.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I run the Royals Reporter at royalsreporter.com. I've been running that website covering the Royals since about 2019, so pre-pandemic. When I'm not writing for there, I'm also contributing to Farm to Fountains, Royals website, where we cover everything from the major leagues down to the minor league system. That's run by Preston Farr and Jared Perkins. And I also contribute to Pitcher List, where I contribute to the weekly Batters Box column. So great to be back. Great to talk about AL Central baseball, especially with the Royals and White Sox up to kick off the second half.
Yeah, we are fresh off the All-Star break. You had quite a few fun moments in the All-Star break. You had, Bobby Witt Jr. Who else made it on the All-Stars? I feel like there were a couple.
Yeah, so we had two pitchers, so two Royal starting pitchers making the All-Star game. Sounds like something unbelievable if you would have talked to me a year from now, but we did. So Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans were representing on the pitcher side, and then we had Salvador Perez earn, I think, his 9th All-Star game appearance, which is kind of insane. So 4 All-Stars for the Royals, which is pretty incredible for a team that lost 106 games a year ago.
Yeah, last season was pretty brutal for you. So with that, what is new with the Royals?
So one of the things with the Royals that we saw is we saw an aggressive offseason. So JJ Piccolo, who had long been an assistant GM under former GM / president Dayton Moore, was promoted to the top spot after the 2022 season. 2023 kind of had an evaluation season. They hired manager Matt Quatrero from the Tampa Bay Rays in 2023 and proceeded to lose 106 games in true rebuilding fashion. This offseason, owner John Sherman gave Piccolo the green light, and they signed not only Seth Lugo, who is an all-star, but also Michael Wacha from the San Diego Padres. They also got a couple others kind of mid-level free agents in Hunter Renfroe for the outfield, as well as Garrett Hampson and Adam Frazier as utility players. And then the biggest move was signing Bobby Witt to a multi-year extension, technically about 10 years with opt-outs, I believe, after 6-7 years, but basically keeping him in the prime years of his career. So those were some really big moves. And the Royals have just gotten off to a great start. They've been one of the more exciting teams in baseball, known for great defense. They rank tied for second in defensive runs saved this year, but they also have had some really timely hitting, obviously with all-star Bobby Witt Jr., but a bounce-back year from Salvador Perez, and then just kind of a piece by piece together from certain hitters who kind of get on hot and not streaks, depending on the year. Vinny Pasquantino has been up and down, but overall productive. And then we've seen guys like Kyle Isbell also show, and Michael Garcia show signs of promise. The bullpen was also boosted a lot by some free agent signings with Will Smith and Chris Stratton coming over from the Rangers, as well as John Schreiber came over in a trade from the Red Sox. The bullpen hasn't been great. They rank one near the bottom in most categories, especially when it comes to K, walks, and stuff plus. But they got a big boost before the deadline by the trading for Hunter Harvey from the Washington Nationals. So I think the Royals are looking to be buyers at the trade deadline, which is very rare because we tend to be sellers since 2017. So it's an exciting and kind of uncharted time for the Royals. I think we all expected some incremental progress. But being 4 wins away from our total win total from last year is kind of crazy. So we're just enjoying it while we can.
Yeah, actually, I had a funny question. Is it weird seeing like half of your old players on this White Sox team now? Because you guys were always sellers. And your coaching staff too. It's not even just that. It's just like half of your old team and coaching staff is now in the White Sox. So how weird is that?
Yeah, it is weird, and it's weird because the White Sox and the Royals always kind of have weird history. I mean, there's a history of some fights with players and even fans and coaches back in the day, and you have a lot of White Sox or lot of White Sox players have Royals ties, as you talked about, with Nicky Lopez being, a big one, and then kind of having kind of these short spurts from guys like Brad Keller. And then obviously manager Pedro Grifol, who was a longtime bench coach here in Kansas City. And kind of seeing all those former Royals on the White Sox is weird because it's in division, but it's also not really paid off as they have 71 losses this year. So that's not so great, I imagine, from the South Side's perspective.
No. What did Royals fans think about Pedro while he was there? I know he wasn't managing the team to the extent he is now, but was he liked in Kansas City?
That's a really interesting question because I think if you ask Royals fans, it would vary. And I think one of the things I know when they hired Mike Matheny back in 2020, there was some consensus or some people out there that thought Pedro Grifol would be a good manager. I think we saw him kind of really connect a lot with a lot of the Spanish-speaking players on the Royals team, especially Salvador Pérez. He kind of talked a really great game. He talked about being very analytically, friendly, which was kind of like the opposite of Mike Matheny. And so when Matheny was fired, some thought, hey, will Grifol get the top job? I don't think anybody disliked him per se because, he was kind of a bench coach and, not really somebody that was in the limelight. I didn't expect kind of what we've been seeing from him. Just I didn't really expect him to be as bad with the media as he has been. And that's something I think that's caught a lot of Royals fans by surprise. But Kansas City is a different market than Chicago. And I think that's kind of probably been a big difference for him. And, and so I think it's caught a lot of us off guard. I think a lot of people who kind of had really positive feelings about Grifol have kind of seen what has gone on in Chicago and been like, woof, at least we didn't hire that guy. That could have been a lot worse.
Dodged a bullet with that one for sure. Yeah, he's been very frustrating, and I hear people calling for his head, which I get, but I also have to remind people. I was like, this really starts from the top. We can't. He was the scapegoat for Jerry to still screw this team up so much. And just be like, oh, it's this manager that was not experienced as much as we were hoping for. So, yeah, I feel bad for the guy as much as I also think he's a terrible fit. I do. I feel for him. It's a tough team to come in, especially when they are as bad as they are right now. And Jerry won't give any real money to anyone. Andrew Benintendi was the highest contract we've ever given out, which is pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, and we had Andrew Benintendi for a couple years, and and it was kind of one of those things of I think some Royals fans at the time when he left, there was some concern when we did not sign him to necessarily an extension, and kind of the main thought when we had acquired him in 2021 was, hey, this deal makes sense if we get him to an extension. And a lot of people thought, hey, would it have been great to do a buy low kind of thing. He was coming off a really bad year with the Red Sox in 2020. And somehow it didn't work out. And that ended up, like you said, it kind of ended up being a blessing in disguise, kind of like Grifol is, because Benintendi has just been so unproductive in everything, whether it's hitting or fielding or on the base pass. So we kind of knew about the base pass part. Him getting thrown out home was a pretty common occurrence, in Kansas City. And I think third base coach Vance Wilson has looked a lot better now that Andrew Benintendi is not rounding third anymore like he was a couple years ago.
Yes, please excuse my dog. She's
It's
really
okay.
There's a squeaker in this toy. Yeah, the only person right now that I don't have beef with is Nicky Lopez, because at least he's been sort of productive in the last month. Everyone else is seriously.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great defensive player. He was a fan favorite in Kansas City. Him and Vinny Pasquantino, they do a Simba cam every Sunday with the kids, and him and Vinny Pasquantino recreated the Simba cam, and they made it into a bobblehead. Nicky's always has a special place, I think, in a lot of Royal fans. Great fan favorite, but yeah, with Bobby Witt, with Michael Garcia, with Michael Massey, a lot of guys coming up, it just didn't make sense. And at least you're happy to see him playing every day. He was in Atlanta, and he wasn't really playing, so at least he's playing, even if it's not been a great experience record-wise.
Yeah, he's okay. I don't mind him at all. It's funny. I was looking at, my son has a very similar haircut to Nicky Lopez, and he is very tan. I do not tan. I am mostly like iridescent, just pale. And I was looking at him in his hat the other day, and he's kind of got these like curls coming
Oh.
out from the bottom. And I was like, "You look like Nicky Lopez right now." And he was like, I do? Because we were at a White Sox game. He was like, "I do." And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." And I looked at Janice. I was like, "Do you think so?" And she's like, "Actually, yeah, I see it." So he was like, "Oh, that's cool." He was like, "He's about the only player I care for right this second." So
Yeah.
congrats on that.
Well,
Anyway,
he's been in the big leagues for 5 years, so that's not a bad comp to have.
no, he's been great. So you did mention, potentially being buyers this year. Is there, a specific approach you hope the Royals take, especially like if there's a gap somewhere that you just desperately need filled?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is the bullpen. The Royals have long struggled with their bullpen ever since kind of the HDH with the Holland, Davis, and Herrera days. Since then, they've really struggled to find a consistent bullpen. They've had some flashes, guys like Scott Barlow, who had a couple good years, then kind of was traded away. Um, they have some potential. James MacArthur was a kind of a trade pickup who's DFA'd by the Phillies and has carved out 17 saves this year, but he lacks kind of the high end stuff to be a really truly dominant closer. Um, guys like Will Smith, obviously past their prime, and Chris Stratton and John Schreiber have had moments, but no consistency. So I think bullpen is the big thing. I think the Royals are saying, what can we do to get bullpen help, but not give up our farm system? The farm system has not been rated very highly by most experts, though I think the draft was a little bit of a step in the right direction. They had a new scouting director leading the charge. So I think there's some hope, but owner John Sherman was on 610 AM radio, which is the major radio station in Kansas City, and he was talking with some of the hosts there, and he's kind of said, like, look, we want to make the team better, but we're not going to sell the farm to do it. He kind of said that if we need to take on money, if we need to take on contract money, that's something we'll do. So I think that you might see that from Sherman. He's more than willing to take on a bad contract, or he's more than willing to eat some money that some other teams wouldn't do in order to acquire a top end player than necessarily just giving up prospects. So I'm really interested to see how that is going to play out over the next month as we head up to the August trade deadline.
Yeah. So how would you rate the recent draft picks that you did get?
I'd say it was a really good draft. I mean, I would probably say we're probably in the B plus A minus. It's always hard to say anything's a straight A or a straight B or a straight C, just because the volatility of prospects, you just never know. But the Royals have had a tendency to go underslot with a lot of their first picks or first round picks, and then kind of build up through the draft. And they kind of did the opposite. They have Jack Caglione, who's a two-way player for the Florida Gators and has tremendous power potential. Slid to the Royals at 6th. They picked him. They didn't try to do anything different, and they look like they're going to continue to have him pitch as well as hit. So I think that's a really different strategy for the Royals. They win a lot of college pitching. They've kind of tended to prefer some prep prospects at the pitching position in the recent drafts. This year they went college heavy, though David Shields was their second round pick, who's a very high upside pick out of the Northeast. So I really like the draft. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of combination of some high upside prospects. Jacob Dugout, which is another pitcher from New York State, is another high-end pitcher in the 14th round that probably has top 10 round value that they were able to pick, and they went over slot with him. So I think there's a nice balance there of a safety as well as some upside, unlike maybe previous drafts, which were either probably too conservative or they were probably or some drafts that were maybe too high risk. So I think I like kind of what the approach was, and that's why I kind of give it probably more closer to an A minus than anything.
Yeah, that's fair. That two-way pitcher hitter, I was like, oh, we could have had that. Like that would have been really cool. But no, we didn't do that. So the Royals right now, they're sitting third in the American League Central. It's 7 games back from first. Twins are just, about 4 you're just about 4 games back from the Twins right now. So is there a way, do you see a way for them to really catch up with the Guardians, or at least pass the Twins, so you can kind of try to get into some kind of playoff spot?
Yeah, the Royals' schedule does kind of die down a little bit in terms of strength. I can't remember. I don't know if it was Brooks Baseball or another account. It kind of was in the range of like the 18th to 20th range in terms of strength of schedule. You look at other teams, like, for example, the Guardians, I think, had a top 3 toughest schedule. So that will be really interesting to see what happens there. The Royals have had performed well against the Guardians this year. They're 4-2 against the Guardians this year. The Twins have been kind of a different story. I think they're 2-6 or 2-5. I know they've lost both series, so it's been a tougher matchup from the Twins. But with the new schedule and teams playing each other less in the division, there's less opportunities to make up directly, maybe compared to the old schedule. But the Royals, to start off the year, they play the White Sox, they play the Diamondbacks, and they play the Cubs all at home. Obviously, the White Sox and Cubs have had disappointing years, and even the Diamondbacks, even though they're a game over 500, have been disappointing. So that's a great opportunity for the Royals to make up some ground. I don't know if the division's in play. I just think right now it's just too far ahead. But you never know. The hot month, a poor month, all those kind of things. And again, with kind of Carlos Correa's and a lot of the Twins players with their health issues, whether it's Carlos Correa or Royce Lewis or whoever, it seems like they've always kind of had kind of some injury issues. But I don't know if the Royals have the depth of the Twins or the Guardians, but I do think the Royals are going to add, and I think it just depends on who they add and whether or not they can kind of leverage that to a strong second half.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, we will take. Oh, okay. Well, we'll take a very quick break and come back and chat about this series. So we'll be right back. Note of that. All right, welcome back. So first and foremost, we'll get to this pitching matchup. They did thankfully have their probable pitchers up when I looked earlier. So game 1, Chris Flexen, almost a 5 with his ERA. He's been fighting some real battles with Michael Wacha, who is under 4. And then game 2, Jonathan Cannon and Brady Singer. Game 3, Drew Thorpe and Seth Lugo. So Drew Thorpe is, well, honestly, Jonathan Cannon and Drew Thorpe are both very, very green still. They've played a handful of games this season, going against a great one like Seth Lugo, who's sitting at 2.48 for his ERA. So what can you tell me about the pitchers in this series, and what should we expect to see?
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting series. Obviously, Cole Reagans or Cole Reagans and Garrett Crochet or Eric Fetty are not going in this series. So, any Royals fans hoping to see some good pitching matchups are going to probably be deprived of that. But then again, one of the things I think the White Sox have been doing well is kind of with their developing of their young pitching. Obviously, Jonathan Cannon and Drew Thorpe have shown some flashes of promise, and I know that in the minors, it seems like the development has improved under Brian Bannister. So at least that's a positive thing going. One of the things that's been really interesting about the Royals this year is they've kind of struggled against unfamiliar pitchers. We've seen, especially over probably since June, pitchers that they haven't had a lot of tape or experience against, regardless of their numbers in AAA. The Royals have kind of struggled. I know against the Marlins, there was a couple matchups, and I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but they were putting ERA numbers of 5 in AAA, and they basically held the Royals to like 1 or less runs. And so I'm kind of concerned by that. Just not so much for Chris Flexen, because there's he's a little bit more of a journeyman, but Jonathan Cannon and Drew Thorpe, how are the Royals going to be able to adjust there, and also just being in that All-Star break kind of hangover. The Royals have kind of struggled off of the off days or off breaks or travels. That's just kind of been a weird thing for them. But on a positive note, the Royals have done much better at home. Done so much better at home that some fans in the AL Central have gone to saying that there's some pitch com hacking conspiracy to be able to like that they're doing so well. So anytime I see that, I'm more than willing to bring out the Julia Stiles hacking gift to combat them. But you know, so I'm really interested in this matchup more in the games 2 and 3 because I wonder if the Royals will just be caught off guard just because of the lack of tape on Cannon and Thorpe.
Yeah, those two have been interesting to watch. Drew Thorpe has, and I keep saying it, I feel like he's the next Dylan Cease, and it's not just the mustache, which is fun, but like he has that kind of same Zen approach. There's no emotion. He just goes out there. He has really nasty stuff, and so when it's hitting, it's beautiful. Like it's a thing of beauty, and he puts off this vibe where I'm like, he could be the next one. He's the calm one. He's just goes in, he pitches, he's done. That's it. You know, there's nothing. I mean, Dylan got a little silly towards the end. Thankfully, He finally started showing his personality, but he's been great to watch in these last few games. And Jonathan Cannon has really good stuff. You know, I've witnessed it. He just, when he gets no run support and a bunch of great hitters, then yeah, he's going to struggle. But yeah, I am excited for those two and their futures. Chris Flexen, it is what it is.
Yeah, you got to have somebody take the ball every 5 days. Yeah, that's just so.
It could be a lot worse. Could be a whole lot worse. So I'll take Chris Flexen and a bunch of rookies that are like 22 over, you know, like scumbags and that are on the injured list right now. So
yeah, I agree.
I don't mind. So which player on the Royals do you think might be the biggest threat to the White Sox right now?
I mean, I think the easiest answer, right, is Bobby Witt Jr. Just obviously coming off that really a big All-Star weekend, just with him, you know, being inches away from, you know, tying the home run derby lead and maybe setting it, maybe even winning it. So obviously Bobby Witt he's a guy who can really put the ball in play. So I think that's going to be really interesting. A guy that I'm probably really interested too is Vinny Pasquantino. Vinny Pasquantino has just been a much better hitter at home at Kauffman Stadium than he has on the road. So again, that's one of the things that we've seen with a lot of Royals hitters. We're seeing Royals hitters who do really well at home, and then they get on the road and they just look like different guys. So just to look at some stats with Vinny Pasquantino, just his home, he's hitting 283 at home compared to 207. 6 of his 11 home runs are at home as well. And then if you just look at advanced numbers, his WRC plus is 119 at home compared to 78 away. And then at his home WRC plus versus righties is 135 compared to 67 on the road. So, I think that's kind of probably the biggest key player. I think if the White Sox want to have a chance of taking 2 or 3 in this series, or 1 or 2 or 3 in this series, I think how well they neutralize Pasquantino, I think is going to be kind of the key. If he has a big series, it could be another 2-game loss or a possible sweep.
Do you think we will get a Simba cam in case Nicky does single in one of these games?
I would love to see it. I would love to see a Vinny Pasquantino, Nicky Lopez, Simba Cam reunion. Of course, it looked different in different uniforms. So I know that would be kind of fun, or just to even see them when they're at first base. Just maybe them do something weird and special. I just know those two go way back. They played with each other on Team Italy during the World Baseball Classic. So I think that, so I know those guys are very close. So hopefully we see something fun because I know nationally not many people are going to tune into a Royals White Sox series. So we got to give them some incentive to do so. Yeah,
not typically. I feel like the AL Central is just such a slog that nobody wants to watch anymore. And I can't say that I blame them. This point.
But it's more exciting than years past. This at least it's better than it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. He's so loud. So you kind of already did touch on keys to taking the series. Is there anything else that they can really do that will guarantee, at least 2 of these games?
I also think one of the things that I think it's been a big thing for the Royals is defense and how defenses play. When teams make errors against the Royals, we have seen that their record has been a lot better when the other teams have more errors than the Royals do. And again, I don't have any exact records on that, but I know that that's been a trend. Just because the Royals do a great job on maximizing the base paths and maximizing runs when they do get on base. I do think the White Sox, if their infield defense or an outfield defense is solid, the Royals don't strike out a lot, and that's one of the things is, but they can also like not really, they can get into a lot of outs, and so we've seen pitchers who don't have great strikeout stuff have success because the defense behind them plays well, and the Royals just aren't really hitting the ball with authority or just bad BABIP luck. And so I think that could happen if the White Sox defense. I know that there's been a lot of changes. I know that we obviously saw another move with Nick Senzel. I don't know if Nick Senzel is going to be in this series, but we're seeing a lot of movement with the White Sox to kind of mix things up. So is that going to help their defense? I'm not sure, but I think if the White Sox aren't making errors, they're going to give themselves a puncher's chance. If they're kind of booting the ball around the place, then yeah, it could be another long series like it was back in early April.
Yeah, well, good news is you'll probably see plenty of White Sox errors that they're really excelling at this year. So on that, in the similar question, do you have any fears like heading into this series that they could just completely blow it?
Yeah, I mean, the Royals have had sometimes it's been hard to predict. I think a lot of Royals fans, I think, are basically, I think the expectations have risen so high that basically anytime the Royals are the favorites, there's just a massive expectations. It's like it needs to be 2 or it needs to be a sweep. I know a lot of Royals fans are just looking at this series and go, if this isn't a sweep, it's a failure. And the reality is baseball is just a 162 game season, and sometimes you just catch teams at the wrong moment. I mean, the Royals know that. I mean, the Royals swept the Astros, last year, and so they took 2 of 3 against the Dodgers last year. So it's one of those things of anything can happen. Like I said, MJ Melendez, who was looking like one of their better hitters, he had a terrible May. He was looking a lot better in July, and then he twisted his ankle and he's on the IL. So that's a loss of another hitter, and this offense has struggled beyond kind of the Salvi, Bobby Witt, and Vinny Pasquantino top 3 hitters. And so I think that will be I'm curious to see that. Is the offense going to get cold? Because I think if the offense is getting cold, that puts more pressure on guys like Waka, guys like Lugo, guys like Singer, who are not like dominant stuff like Cole Reagans. I mean, Lugo is more of that sort, but Waka and Singer aren't that way. So I'm just kind of curious to see that. I think that's just my big fear, is that the offense just kind of comes in sluggish right off the break, and maybe that they underperform in this series.
Just, you mentioned Salvi before we kind of move on to other things. How many years do you think he's got left in him?
It'll be interesting. And, I think there was some popular sentiment this offseason that the Royals would have been better off trading Salvi. Obviously, at 34 years old, he's not necessarily like in the prime of his career, but Matt Quachero has really utilized him in a kind of creative way. And a lot of that is due to the breakthrough performance of Freddie Fermin. Freddie Fermin was kind of a late blooming prospect in the Royals system, really didn't debut until his age 28 season. But the last 2 seasons, he's been not only one of the more surprising hitting catchers in the league, but also like one of the best defensive catchers. And that has allowed Quachero to kind of save Salvi behind the plate, has kind of added some his opportunities at first base and at designated hitter. And so I don't know. I mean, I think in terms of productive years, I feel like he's at least got maybe 2 to 3. But he's a guy who loves the game. He might have 4 to 5, but you never know. I mean, you look at guys like Jose Abreu, who you think might have a couple more years left, and then it just falls off quick. So with Salvi's, just the way his size, how big he is, you never know, but I feel like at least he has 2 or 3 more productive years in him.
Yeah, we actually just DFA'd our veteran catcher, Martin Maldonado. Thank you. Sweet. Whatever is up there, granting wishes or prayers or whatever, he's gone. R.I.P. to those years. Um, brutal times. I actually missed Yasmani watching Martine at bat quite a bit. So
We knew him in 2019, and so I understand the pain. And I remember he was one of the guys that was always in the middle of like those Tim Anderson, Brad Keller face-offs, which was big in 2019 between the Royals and the White Sox.
that was one. When that was announced with Brad Keller, I was like, this is kind of such a bummer that Tim Anderson is not here now, because I can't even begin to imagine what that clubhouse would be like with
Yes.
those two in it. Because there's been a ton between the two of them. Obviously, Tim got more into it with the Guardians after a while, but
Right.
those Brad Keller, Tim Anderson days were a lot of fun. But now Tim has completely fallen off. He was DFA'd from the Marlins, which is so sad because he, like Jose Abreu, was so great. There was so much potential, and he just.
Yeah, I was able to see every Marlins game at the Royals, and just kind of seeing Tim Anderson play in two or three of those games. And yeah, you're right. It looks like just a totally different player, just athletically, it's just not there as it used to be. Hitting wise, the pop isn't there. It's kind of sad that you're kind of seeing, boy, the drop off happened really fast. It wasn't like, okay, he was having some slow regression. It's just he didn't even look like the same player that he was, back in 2019 or 2021.
Yeah, typically when you leave the White Sox, you have these banner years. And I mean, you see it all the time with pitchers, at least. The second they're gone, they're like, okay, best example right now, Reynaldo Lopez or Dylan Cease. I mean, Raylo had such a tough time here, and now he's the best pitcher.
But you also have Jose Abreu, and so sometimes you never know. It's again, sometimes some guys go out and have great careers, and sometimes they don't, or they're injured, like Lucas Giolito right now. So
yeah, I feel bad about that one. I was bummed because and Lucas, he's been so up and down too. I mean, he was the worst pitcher in baseball, and then he threw a no-hitter, and then he played an 11 a.m. game in Boston and just got brutalized. He's not a morning person, from what we learned.
Not many of us are. Not many of us are.
I'm not. I have a meeting scheduled at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm like, why? Why now? It's when I'm like first, signing in for work. So with moving forward away from our teams, we are now in the second half of the season. So what are your thoughts in general about where you think this season is headed, and any hot takes or contenders for the World Series, whatever your thoughts are at the moment?
I feel there's a lot of parity this year, and I think it's really hard to really get a good sense of who are going to be the contenders and who are not. I think a lot just depends on health. Obviously, the Dodgers on paper look great, but they've gone through a lot of their injury issues and they've kind of cooled off. The Dodgers are very similar to the Royals. They have like this great top four, and then you look at the bottom of their lineup, and everybody has OPS numbers under 600. So it doesn't feel like there's a truly dominant team. Everybody has had their moments. The Orioles have had their moments. The Yankees have had their moments. The Rangers, or not the Rangers, the Mariners have had their moments. So I think it's going to be truly a photo finish to the end. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a team that really started off cold, like the Astros or even the Diamondbacks, for example, kind of make a run in the second half. And then obviously with this new playoff format, it just kind of it's when you face each other. So I think it's going to be a wild end of the season. And I also get the feeling that it's going to be a very tame trade deadline. I don't sense that we're going to have a mega deal. I don't think we're going to have a Juan Soto deal. That's going to be a major prospects. I know Luis Roberts, kind of the guy who's been like, hey, is he going to get a mega deal? But I just don't see a lot of teams doing that. I think teams are just more protective of their prospects now, and I just don't think there's really a player that you can say, oh, yeah, this guy's going to win us a World Series. So I think it's also we're going to see a very calm trade deadline. We're going to see some minor deals here and there. But I think it's going to be a really interesting second half, just because you can flip a coin and make argument for a lot of teams to make a run.
Yeah, I am mentally preparing myself for Garrett Crochet and Eric Fetty to be gone, which is really heartbreaking, but I can't. I've been unable to really attach myself to a single player on this team this year because they are so bad and there were so many one-year deals, and I had no idea what Garrett Crochet was going to end up doing when he moved to starting pitcher. So I was like, well, I'm not going to have like a favorite this year, because who knows? It's either you get rid of Crochet and Fetty, or you keep them, but your franchise player, Luis Robert, is gone. So it's like, what are they going to do? This is so stressful.
Yeah, but you've seen that. I mean, look at the Royals case. If you have one or two good arms, which the White Sox do, it's like we've seen what the Royals have done to turn it around. It's like, I mean, you could make that argument, right? That Garrett Crochet and Eric Fetty are like kind of like the Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans of last year. And if you're just, I don't know if the internal talent's there yet, but on the position player end, and that's why I think a lot of teams are just not going to go crazy at the deadline. I just think some teams will look at teams like the Royals, who have kind of turned it around, and think like, well, you know what? Like, if we just grab a couple free agents and we spend some money and we just hope our guys develop, maybe we can do that too. I think, you don't want to get in that cycle of constantly rebuilding. It can be really kind of deflating on a fan base, and especially where a lot of fan bases are, kind of the whole television thing and all those kind of things. Those are, I think teams are more cognizant of that now.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, she is very opinionated tonight. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the only team I feel like might be safe at this moment to say like, oh yeah, they're going to go far are the Phillies. But I agree with your Astros point, and I just talked about this again recently, I think, on here, that they have a tendency to just sneak up on you. Like, yeah, they started very bad, but they're already doing a lot better than people really thought they would. And they're sneaking up on us, and they're probably going to knock out and win the West. Who knows? Because I don't know why Seattle is as good as they are right now. Like, that doesn't really make sense to me right now. So
yeah, I mean, it's just that dominant pitching from Seattle. But, and again, it's like when you have players who are proven, like Alex Bregman and Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, and then you're getting guys back like Framber Valdez, who was injured, you kind of sleep on teams. And so I just think I want to be surprised if there's a sleeper team that we've kind of slept on all in the first half suddenly surge, and then we're just like, oh, why didn't we see this team before? Why didn't we expect them to go to the ALCS or the NLCS? I just feel like one of those teams is going to happen. I just don't know who.
Yeah, well, that was the Diamondbacks last year.
Yeah.
We got to that point and I was like, wait, really? Arizona?
Yeah, these guys are good. Like,
I'm so confused right now. Oh, well, that's all I've got for you. So before we wrap this up, please just remind everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and always a pleasure talking Royals White Sox baseball. Once again, you can find me at my website at royalsreporter.com, or you can also find my work at farmtofountains.com, as well as for fantasy baseball stuff at pitcherlist.com. And my Twitter is or I still call it Twitter, Royal Report Kev.
It'll only be Twitter. I will never refer to it as its new government name.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you again so much. Obviously, best of luck in this series. Happy halfway through baseball to you.
Yep, happy first way. I look forward to a great second half, and hopefully we have some fun baseball in the Central down the stretch.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.